back to my YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you're never missing a video. If you are new to the Career Savage community, Career Savage is all about providing relevant and up-to-date career advice for working professionals and especially college students so that you are making well-informed decisions regarding your career. I am so excited to talk about this video because obviously I got a new job. I'm now working as an associate director in regulatory affairs, and you guys will not let me live down the original regulatory affairs video I made where the volume in the background was so loud because I was new to YouTube and editing, and I didn't realize that it was overpowering the sound of my voice. I've made a bunch of regulatory affairs videos to kind of offset that really poorly edited video. But yeah, it doesn't matter. People still leave comments about the volume. So in this video, I'm talking about what regulatory affairs is again, and I'm also talking about what my actual career is now, because it's like a career update. When I originally made that video, I believe I was just an associate, and now to be an associate director, that's like for 3 levels above. So I'm really excited for this video. Stick around and watch the entire thing. So what is regulatory affairs? Regulatory affairs, the career of regulatory affairs and professionals within the discipline are responsible for the development and life cycle of drug products and ensuring that the processes in curating these drug profiles are following local, global, and regional regulations. So for example, a drug that's developed in the United States is regulated by the FDA, and regulatory professionals within the sponsor, so that the sponsor is considered the pharmaceutical company, or there's also investigator sponsors, but we won't get into that. The sponsor is the pharmaceutical company, and within the sponsor, they have regulatory professionals who are working with different disciplines like medical affairs, clinical affairs, non-clinical, manufacturing, to ensure everything that the FDA requires to approve the product is set, ready to go, and makes strategic sense. Regulatory affairs people within the sponsor side are responsible for coming up with strategic development plans. So regulatory affairs may make the decision that we don't need to do a phase 2 clinical study. Let's do a phase 2-3 combination. Let's do a cohort study design where we have people who take our drug with this combination and who don't take our drug with that combination. So regulatory affairs is truly the foundation of drug development. They are the gatekeepers. And whereas the other disciplines might contribute to the development of a product, regulatory owns it. They own the product, and they're the ones who are facilitating with that health authority. So meetings with the FDA, regulatory is responsible for it. Any question that the FDA may have about a clinical study or anything related to the product, they go to regulatory affairs. Normally, there's one person within the sponsor side who is responsible for that application. So whether it's the director or that product person at that company, they're the one who signed the cover letters, they're the one who the regulatory project managers at the FDA communicate with. The FDA is not going to communicate with 1 million people about that one program. So whoever that individual is at that company, they own it. That's kind of like overview of regulatory affairs and what people are responsible for. I like to say it's a little bit of everything from clinical, non-clin to project management to strategic planning to legal, because you have to read the guidances that the health authority provides. On the FDA's website, there are 1 million guidances about different things. They talk about how to manage a clinical study during a pandemic. They talk about the requirements for getting a drug approved, an IND application approved. They talk about protocol design. They talk about different approval processes like RMAT designation, which is for regenerative medicine, fast track designation, orphan drug designation. The types of meetings you have, there's type A, type B, type C meetings. There's also RMAT meetings. So people in regulatory need to understand what those regulations are and how they can take that information that the health authority applies and implement it within their organization. So if someone from manufacturing was like, well, I have questions about, okay, not manufacturing, but CMC stands for chemistry, manufacturing, and controls. So if someone from the CMC department, which is the technical side of the drug, like the actual makeup, drug product, drug substance, came to somebody in regulatory and was like, well, I want to ask them questions about something related to CMC. The person in regulatory would think, okay, is this going to be a type A, type B, type C meeting? We need to draft our briefing book to talk to the FDA about what the meeting's going to be about. Sometimes you don't even need to have a meeting. You can just email your regulatory PM, but it's up to regulatory to make those decisions on how to facilitate conversations with the FDA as well. So Regulatory affairs does a lot. So I want to talk a little bit about what my responsibilities are at the current company that I work for as an associate director. I think at this new company that I work for, because it's so small, I'm responsible for a lot of different things. I've done stuff like research the epidemiology of different disease states and implementing that into our regulatory strategy. So how many people experience this? Is it going to be an orphan designation? Are we going to file for RMAT status? Are we going to have a meeting with the FDA? There's so many different things you have to think of and how to apply it. So at this current job that I have the ability to think of all the regulatory experience I had and all the regulations that I understand and how I can apply it to the programs that I'm currently working on. So I am currently responsible for non-clinical strategy, clinical strategy, of course with the guidance of my boss who is like way higher up. I am also responsible for maintaining the IND applications, and that means submitting annual reports, helping with clinical study reports. At the end of each study, you have to generate a clinical study report. And within the clinical study report, it delineates all the information from the study. It talks about whether your endpoints were met in terms of primary and secondary. It talks about any safety issues you may have had. It talks about everything encompassing the study, like the subjects. I mean, you get tables, listings, and figures. You'll commonly, when you're in regulatory, working with people in clinical, you'll commonly hear TFLs, which stands for table listings and figures. And that's just an acronym they use in medical writing, but that is accompanied with the clinical study report. And it's basically transcribing what happened in the study and regurgitating it into that report. I've seen reports that are 40 pages long. I've seen reports that are 100 pages long. And there's a difference between abbreviated clinical study report and a regular one. But I am responsible for, honestly, some content as well. I'm also doing a little bit of medical writing, so helping with protocols and protocol synopsis. I'm doing a little bit of medical affairs, wherein I'm working with investigators for some of the trials that we have. I'm also doing project management, so that's kind of making sure that everyone from different disciplines are contributing all the necessary components to the life cycle of that product. In developing some protocols, I do a little bit of market research, which is really just me understanding the disease state and where we as the company fit in. And honestly, clinicaltrials.gov is a beautiful tool because you're able to see what other sponsors have done in their clinical studies, the endpoints they had, the primary objectives, the secondary objectives. You're able to see their exclusion inclusion criteria. So why didn't they include these patients and why they included certain patients, age gaps, even in terms of like the trial design. So are we going to do a phase 1 or a phase 1B? Are we going to do a phase 1A, 2B, which is a combination? Are we going to explore dosing? And normally when you do like A-B kind of studies, you're exploring the dosing of your product. But those are some of the things that I'm responsible for my new job. Working at a smaller pharmaceutical company, as I've told you guys before on my channel, gives you the ability to do a million different things. And even though I'm extremely busy, I like the fact that I'm busy because I'm able to learn and advance and learn something new every single day. I've never worked in this specific therapeutic area before, but I've worked in the division, if that makes sense. So it's like saying when I was doing sickle cell before, I never worked in oncology, but I understood hematology, and hematology and oncology are very similar. It's kind of the same situation with my current position, but being able to work on non-clinical strategy, clinical strategy, and actually be heard by the organization, in my opinion, be mattered and valued is like such a great opportunity for me. So I think as an associate director, obviously the higher you climb up the ladder, the more work you have to do and the more responsibility you have. At this point, I can't only have my regulatory hat on. I have to have my clinical hat on. I have to have my strategy hat on. I have to have my budgetary hat on. I have to think, is this cost effective for what we're doing? I have to also think like, okay, if we do this in the phase 1, is this gonna come back and bite us in the phase 3? Because we didn't look at this in the phase 1. There's all these things that you have to think about that I never really had to think too much about. I have to think from A to Z, whereas when I was a senior manager and a consultant, I only had to think from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. It was a very step, but now I have to expand my way of thinking to think of, if our non-clinical looks like this, how is that gonna affect how the FDA views our phase 1 data or our phase 2 data? Or if our phase 1 looks like this, what are we gonna try and capture in the phase 3? And of course, you don't know until you get the data from the phase 1 or phase 2 what you're gonna do in phase 3, but you still have to have some sort of general idea. I am very happy still working in regulatory affairs. I know I've been talking about it on YouTube for a while, and I think that if you're interested in breaking into this industry or doing any of the things that I talked about and really expanding your clinical mind, it's a great place to start. Like I'm telling you, I learn something new all the time. And you think think that with regulatory, it's just like, you know, managing or facilitating conversations with the health authorities, but it's not. Because I've done medical writing now. I've done medical affairs, clinical affairs, you know, helping write protocols and thinking of the right protocol design. Those are things that you have to put your clinical mind on for. Or even thinking about the patient population, like, okay, if we include these amount of patients, are we gonna have more AEs, or is it gonna confound the results of our product? You have to think about all those things, and it's just really amazing. And obviously I'm really happy with where I am professionally. If you have any questions about regulatory affairs, make sure you leave some comments down below. Of course, I'm always here to answer any of your questions and make more videos about this topic if you see fit. I'll also put a link down below to my other regulatory affairs content. If you guys would like to get some more one-on-one time in terms of this topic or any topic for that matter, make sure you visit careersavage.com and schedule your one-on-one consult. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time, bye.